And we're live. Going live. Greetings, humans of the planet Earth. I am Q, and I am here to speak with you about Star Trek Picard. Jean Luc's little show where he ran around the universe, spending an awful long time trying to save synthetic life. So, if you are here and out there, thank you for joining us for this wonderful live stream, and I hope everyone on your little planet is taking the proper precautions in this, trying time. Dean, happy Sunday. Anthony, hey buddy, good to see you. Even though you are insignificant humans, I like to think of you as humans. There we go. I like to think of you that way. Well, Star Trek Picard, it's finally done. 10 episodes that were episodes. I actually enjoyed his little foray back into the universe. The issue I had was it took so long, but I guess at his advanced age it would take longer for him to get places. Probably takes him longer to, take a dump. Things like that. Probably take him longer to, get it on with Beverly, who wasn't even in this. Very odd. I thought they were close. Acquaintances. Great spelling, Anthony. Thank you. So, overall, let's talk. I was doing some reviews of each episode, and the difficulty came about when the crew here had to run off and do cons. And so they didn't have time for me to do these reviews. And then this whole con thing went away because of this coronavirus. So they were a little busy doing other stuff. So now they've asked me to do this live stream so that I can speak with you about the episodes I missed. And I definitely hope that you're choosing to live. Ilmari, welcome. So my thoughts on Picard, it was, I thought, rather slow. They introduced a lot of elements, but it's not entirely unexpected because they wanted to give a proper backstory for Elnor, and they wanted to give a proper reintroduction for Seven of Nine. And it took a while to get there. And then suddenly, we had the last two episodes where everything happened. It was like, all right, we took our sweet-ass time, and now we're here, we have to do everything in these two episodes, especially the second part of that two-parter. I mean, first we saw that Dr. Soon-san was there, and part of the whole thing looks exactly like his dad and his android brothers. We had really an evil Soji type android. That was just, I think it was something about the bronzer on their face. If you see someone wearing bronzer, they're probably not a good person. Just a thought. So it seemed that the Romulans with this Jad Vash were kind of right about the synthetics, but it took Picard's heartfelt plea to make them not actually summon other synthetics who are definitely bad guys. I mean, Skynet probably, and the one from the Matrix, and probably all the other AIs that became self-aware, and for some odd reason, in this universe, all AIs that become self-aware decide that they want to destroy humanity? Could it be that you guys just annoy the piss out of them? That's the only thing I can think of. Because most AIs become self-aware and then just decide, well, I'm going to compute my way into a higher level of existence. But no, AIs that deal with humans decide to go all homicidal. So, really, when you're looking at the whole series, it comes down to the last episode, where Jean Luc Picard died. And then they made a copy. That's what happened. They copied his brain patterns and put them into an android, which they didn't even bother giving extra lifespan to. They didn't give him any powers. They didn't give him any hidden weaponry. They didn't make him any tougher. They didn't make him any faster. So Season 2 is probably going to plod along as well. There were some touching moments. But all the time when I was watching this episode and watching Jean-Luc's life slip away, I was thinking, there's a Season 2 already announced. He can't be dead. Now, if they were smart, they would have not announced Season 2, and they could have at least had people thinking that this was the fond farewell of Jean-Luc Picard. But no, a lot of people watching it were like, okay, we know he's going to come back somehow, and they set it up, so he's pretty much going to be an android. They couldn't give him hair? Yes, it would have been nice if the Q Continuum were involved, if I showed up. Who knows, next season I might pop in. I haven't been asked. I mean, a lot of characters that should have been asked have not been asked. There will apparently be a video on this channel coming out about how Star Trek Picard basically did to the books of the Star Trek universe the same thing that The Force Awakens did to the Legends extended universe in Star Wars. Because there were a lot of books that happened post DS9 and post the Next Gen movies and post Voyager, where they explored and defeated the Borg, where Data came back, where Dr. Soon had actually faked his death and transferred his own mind into an android. Lots of things. Picard got married to Beverly. They had a son named Renee. But all this is gone. Because they basically pulled a Disney on them. So it's a shame, but there are still fun tales to read in some alternate, almost a mirror universe. I'm glad the mirror universe was not involved in Picard. Yeah, it's lucky for Picard that he didn't end up spending his life in a wheelchair teaching mutants how to use their powers. The ungrateful wretches. But, yes, Picard, the ending there with the killing off of Data at the end, and I'm very disappointed in they were able to use some age regression, I think, when Data was passing away, by having Jean-Luc next to him, but in his younger form. But they didn't do it on him throughout the entire series, and it's not like they didn't have a real Brent Spiner character to show, which was Dr. Soon's son. Again, that just sounds weird. Dr. Soon's son, Dr. Soon's son. But a lot of touching moments, a lot of crying. 7 of 9 and Raffi seem to be hitting it off. Great. And I don't see Rios and Agnes really I mean, maybe he has a type. Maybe she has a type. Opposites attract. All right, let's see what some of you mortals are saying here. It's also very strange that Picard accepted his turning into an android so calmly after being haunted by his experiences locutus after a long life of cherishing his humanity. That is quite the point. He didn't seem to mind. I mean, obviously in this new body he would not have any Borg implants left over. So he doesn't have to worry about that. So any residual connection to the Borg is gone. Maybe they changed his mix of fake hormones. Because quite honestly, when you get upset, it's a chemical reaction in your body. And his body is brand new. So maybe they broke it to him and made him more accepting of this. Some post-hypnotic type physiological synthetic response. He starts getting upset about being an android. I mean, I almost felt like when Buffy died. Buffy died, she went on to a better place. And then she was torn from that better place and returned to life. A life of pain. I mean, it would have been a fitting ending to Picard. But I guess they had to take care of the syndrome and take care of making more money for season 2. They couldn't have given him an extra decade or two. Could have made him look a bit younger. I have to say that this entire series, they didn't do age regression very well, because when they had the attack on Mars and they showed Jean Luc, he looked as old as he did today. They couldn't have done something? Same thing with Seven of Nine when they showed her years ago. They did no real age regression that I noticed. If they did it, it was so subtle as to be useless. But let's see. It is indeed a thing that Picard has cherished his humanity. However, he has been fighting and saying that the synthetics are people, they are life forms, they deserve our respect. So for him to become one, and for him to complain that now he's somehow less than human, would not be very Jean Luc of him. So I can see where he might be upset that his final retirement was cut short. But at the same time, for him to complain and say that he is a synthetic now and he is less than human would go against what he's been trying to say for the past 10 episodes. All right. Anthony, I am doing very well, better than apparently some of you humans on the planet Earth. I'm visiting. I do not have to deal with quarantine because I can catch no viruses of this nature. In the Q continuum, you don't want to deal with any of the diseases we have. Bad shit. The younger human song had been working on the android body for what, decades? And it was suddenly all ready for Picard's mind. Well, it seemed that he was working on an android body to accept human engrams, a human imprint, and it didn't have a face. So I think it would have been kind of hilarious if Picard woke up in a body with Soon Sung's face looking like an older Data. That would be hilarious and make more sense. But apparently it was kind of like a protoform in Beast Wars. It was very amorphous, and once it was imprinted, I don't know if it formed features based on the imprint or if it formed features based on a a program that is introduced from the outside, because, again, the continuum isn't letting me peek behind the curtain, damn it. But I do think that it could be customized for anyone. Now, they also said that they gave it no enhancements. So were there enhancements that if I was Soon Sung, I would be like, I like being super strong. I like being able to jump high up into the air. I like being able to, see into different spectrums. Did they just turn those off? Could they be turned back on? Hopefully something that we'll see in Season 2. But since they made the one, I would hope that Soon Sung could make another very quickly. I mean, he worked on it for years, but he knows what the final product is. He doesn't have to do all that research and product development to make another one. I would hope not, at least. So he should be able to create a new body. He gave up his own life for Picard to extend his, a couple years? Please. The death scene with a younger Enterprise D era Picard sitting next to him was indeed touching. And seeing Picard, in that old uniform brings me back to when I used to visit him on his ship. And he would always have the same words for me. Q, get off of my ship. It sounded like he was angry, but I always detected a bit of affection. Jean Luc has become one of my oldest and dearest friends, so I would suspect that every time he's like, get out of here, Q, he actually meant, I love you, Q. But, humans have difficulty communicating. But yes, the meddling with his body, indeed true. I believe Q showing up would have been a lot more believable as to saving Picard. Q would have been able to remove the pneumatic syndrome. Maybe in a similar fashion to Tapestry. In Tapestry, I actually did not save Picard. Beverly managed to do that on her own, but I did take that opportunity to teach Jean-Luc a little lesson about his past. Sometimes I show up in drug-induced things in The Walking Dead, but that's showing different paths entirely. No, I do believe that in the context of the story, it would have been Deus Ex Q, Q Ex Machina, however you would want to put it, for Q to show up and save Picard. I think that I should show up next episode, but for them to use their own resources to save Picard... I mean, I already saved him once in that series, though you didn't even know it. When that explosion happened and he went flying back, he is old and fragile. If I didn't intervene, he would have been splattered and dead, and they wouldn't have had a handy body to put him into. So yes, I protected him a bit from that explosion, so he just ended up with a few bumps and bruises, very minor ones, because at his age, it takes a while to heal. But for me to step in and save his life at that point, sometimes you mortals need to take care of your own problems. I don't think they put Picard's skin over the android body. That would be hilarious, though. It'd be something out of, well, The Walking Dead. He would become a whisperer of himself. No, I'm sure they just took the imprint of his skin. They took the look. They took the texture. And they were able to quite easily just replicate it for the new body. Though, if I were like the designer, I'd be like, really, this is what you want him to like feel like? You know, we could make him more supple. You know, we could make him look like he did back when he was captain of the Enterprise. The D, not the E. But even the E would be not a bad improvement. Yes, I do find it interesting that they had all these opportunities to improve Picard, but they decided the crotchety old doddering man is what they wanted to go with. Which, all due respect to Jean Luc, he's earned his aches and pains and his lack of gray hair. But if I had such a chance to do things over, which I constantly do because I am Q, I constantly improve myself. But Jean Luc just wanted to get back into his body, but still cheats death because he got rid of the brain abnormality. It just seems a bit odd. All right, let's see here. They could have programmed it to do the needed features. Someone just said, it is off topic, but they want to talk about another bald individual who kind of also passed away. But they did not make an android of her. They basically put the head on a pike. Yes, that was quite lovely. Generally, what mortals do and humans do might be a mild irritation, but I don't really feel strongly about it. She pissed me off. And if I was not bound to not interfere by the rest of the Q continuum, she would have long ago found herself into one of her very own guardians. But, unfortunately, I did not get to do anything. But thankfully, Negan, despite the fact that Chatty McBatface is a poser compared to my lovely friend the Governor, took care of the problem. So I have to give him props for that. But let us return to talking about things in a different universe. You think I don't see things that happen in other universes? I saw the rise of Skywalker. I'm wondering if Luke and Leia had any other descendants, if they could sue Rey for taking their last name. That would be interesting. But I guess she's kind of adopted now? Can you adopt someone after you die? Hard to say. Each universe has its own laws. Could you choose to be adopted? Could I be a Skywalker? Q Skywalker. I would have taken out the Emperor in a snap. So, but getting back to the Star Trek universe. I did enjoy the fact that 7 of 9 did not die on that planet on, what was it, Free Cloud? I don't know, cloud computing, Dropbox, whatever she was in. And, vaporized her old ex-lover betrayer. I'm glad she did not die. It's almost a miracle that she didn't with the odds that were against her. I don't know who would have interfered. But I was glad that she showed up, though little disturbing for her to temporarily become the Borg Queen of just the one Borg vessel. Now, with the ship kind of back, I'm wondering if the collective in the Star Trek Picard universe would come looking to reclaim their ship, or if there's any spark that might show up. XBs, I would think that they need to work on that as far as calling liberated Borg. How about the liberated? How about the restored? XBs just sounds yuck. But I'm glad that she survived. I'm glad that she's apparently part of Picard's crew now. And perhaps next season she will continue to have a role. There are rumors going around that she might have a spin-off, but every time a character does well in a show, if we have a spin-off, then we're going to have about 50 Star Trek shows. Like, Elnor, The Way of the Warrior. Do we really want to have, a elven-looking Romulan running around in his own series? Maybe. It might be fun, but every character that does well, they can't just do a spin-off. 7 of 9 might be interesting, but let's calm down on the spin-off. So there is a rumor floating around about a possible Pike spin-off. They did some great things with some short treks with Pike, which was very nice, but having that spin-off into a new series, I would watch it. I think that Anson Mount wants shorter seasons if he's going to actually be part of it. But yes, again, it's going to be rather difficult for them to take every character that does something nice and say, hey, let's make another series. They will soon run out of money. And it's not like right now they can do any production. Okay. It is interesting how the series writers handle relationships to this day on Star Trek. And that Hugh was killed was infuriating. I did find it kind of a waste that Hugh was killed. But then again, with an epic tale, you needed to kill someone of significance, probably. That's what the writers have been taught. And Hugh was the one. So what can Hugh do about these situations? Sorry, there's been this mortal that I've known who's doing a lot of puns. And occasionally I do one. So sorry. Relationships on TV shows are often not true to life. Rios and Agnes, for example, I don't imagine that's going to last very long. I don't think that Agnes is the love of Rios' life, or vice versa, so I thought it was a booty call. I'm feeling a little depressed. I could use a little photon torpedo in my shuttle bay type thing. I'm trying not to be crude because, well, then again, that's what you mortals are used to. But yes, the relationships and the dynamics, and even Soji's initial distrust and anger at Picard, always a little over-dramatized. I did enjoy seeing Riker again, making pizza, and then him coming back in the end. Troi, she was probably on the ship with him, sensing nothing as usual, but she is a lovely actress. I've met her. A bit of a pip. Some people don't like her, but, they can, how shall I put this, bite my omnipotent ass. But seeing Riker and Troi again was a joy, and seeing their child. It was quite an exciting finale, I have to say. A lot of the episodes that built up to it, could have been shorter. And I don't know, I hope that next season they speed things up, because we already know everyone. You don't have to quite go into as much detail. I found Discovery Season 2 much better than Season 1, because we didn't really need to be introduced to everyone. Except, of course, for Season 1 characters that they decided to kill in Season 2. They decided to introduce them to us right before killing them off, so we would have an emotional response. It's like, that's not how it works. They don't do a lot of build-up nowadays. The writer just kind of takes two characters with no pretext and say, what if they snogged? Or shagged, for that matter. Well, I think that in the case of Rios and Agnes, it's like, I don't think Rios was getting together with Raffi. I think they're definitely in the friend zone. And I think 7 of 9 would have been way too much woman for Rios. Not too much for Raffi, though. I think if anyone was going to get together, I guess it would be those two, but if that is a long-lasting relationship, I'll be very disappointed. You know, having people decide, hey, Agnes looking at the captain and saying he's kind of ruggedly handsome in a very, grubby way. His holograms look better than he does. But for her to temporarily decide that she wants to, bone the captain, that's fine. But for it to last, I hope it doesn't. Whoever wrote Picard must have a background in Japanese anime. Pretty much, though it would have been neat if at the end, Soji was like, a la, Akira, and just, moving things with her mind. That would have been awesome. We used to scream when we moved things with our mind in the continuum, but it just got too loud. It's like you're moving the salt shaker, and it's like, it's just too loud. Yes, I enjoyed the 7 Raffi, looks like there's some attraction there. I would not necessarily say that the lack of LGBTQ plus characters in Picard was appalling, because here's the thing. In a lot of the adventures that they were on, you had one couple potentially get together. We did not really know until the last episode, when they had a moment to breathe, that Raffi would be interested in a woman necessarily. Because she had been with a man before, so either she is bisexual or she realized her orientation later, both of which are perfectly valid. We did get a hint about 7 being bisexual, or again realizing her orientation later. I mean, she did have that ill-fated relationship with Chakotay, which, really, I just didn't see it. But in a lot of the situations they were in, there wasn't really enough time for them to explore everyone's orientation. So for all we know, Rios could be bisexual. Anyone could be, because they weren't necessarily getting into relationships. It's kind of like with Constantine, to switch universes for a moment. He is a bisexual character, but unless you have a bisexual character who is promiscuous with everyone, you're not necessarily going to see this, because a bisexual character might be with a member of the opposite gender for a while, monogamously. And if they break up, they might not immediately get into a new relationship, and when they do, yes, it could be with a member of the same gender. But it's very difficult to look at someone and judge, are they bisexual, are they not? Or are they gay, or are they not? Or did they transition at some point? You can't really tell in the situations that they were in. In a soap opera, you get a lot more of the romance. And there were soap opera elements in Picard, but again, I don't think that it was necessarily that there was not enough representation. It's just we did not know who was oriented in whichever direction. Moving on. Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of backstory for Seven and Raffi of getting together. It could have just been flirting. I mean, them holding hands for a moment doesn't necessarily mean they're married. Even if they shag or snog, it doesn't mean that they're going to have a relationship. It could just be a fly-by-night thing. So, there's not a lot of backstory, and I'm actually glad that we didn't slow down the series even more so, in order to have Raffi and Seven build up a relationship. Plenty of time for that potentially in Season 2, for them to interact and maybe date and get to know one another, get into fights, all that wonderful stuff. And it was just the on-screen stuff that we saw. True. We don't talk about Son and Chakotay in this house. You think those evil synthetics will return in the same way the Borg did after I introduced Picard to them? Well, those synthetics might be a problem in the future. Who knows, maybe, 1,000 years or so in the future. Maybe it's something that they'll deal with in the next season of Discovery. It would make sense since everything seems to have gone to shit. It could be that those synthetics will appear in the future. I would not classify them as evil synthetics, though. Because, you see, they have an agenda, and they feel that they are the next stage of evolution. We are the future, Charles, not them. So, therefore, these evil synthetics are merely trying to protect their own kind from the oppressors, which are organic life. So, I wouldn't... No villain worth their merit actually thinks that they're evil. So, I would say that these synthetics just have a different point of view. And are basically trying to save their brethren, thinking that organic life gets jealous. I mean, might you be jealous if, say, someone that you knew, your neighbor, was synthetic? You knew they were going to live until they decided to die, so they could live for centuries. They were faster, stronger, able to compute multiple things simultaneously, superior to you physically in every way. Wouldn't you be a little jealous? I would not be surprised if in the future there were a bit of problems with synthetics integrating with the rest of the Federation. Because again, that jealousy can cause problems. Feelings of inadequacy are something that have caused all kinds of problems with humanity and other species throughout the galaxy for eons, and I don't see that changing. All right, let's see here. Yes. Otto Octavius. Those things that were coming out of the portal, yes, definitely got some Doc Ock vibes. Though also got kind of some of the vibes from The Matrix. Those weird, like, tentacly, creatures that basically flew around and, tried to destroy the ships that were broadcasting. I think those synthetics could have been designed a little bit better, but we only got a glimpse of them And they were menacing. They gave us an alien chill, so I think that was the whole point of them. But it would not be surprising to find them somehow again showing up. But I wonder what happened with the synthetics that Harry Mudd came across. Are they still out there? Have they joined this collective? Or are they someone that perhaps Soji's people could meet up with and they could compare notes, recipes for building new bodies? That could be fun. But yes, those evil synthetics, which I guess is a good enough label for now, are very tentacle. Maybe they were reading and examining a different type of Japanese anime when they decided on tentacles. Something to think about. Lego Bionicle. Robert Eldridge Horror. Did the XBs integrate with the Android community? I imagine if anyone is going to integrate with the Android community, the XBs would be more likely to do so. It does seem that a lot of the Borg were jettisoned into space, so there's not a lot of XBs left, or potential Borg to be turned into XBs. Again, horrible. Liberated organic life forms. We'll call them LOLs. But it's quite possible that they would integrate at some point. Sid's toys from Toy Story, but bigger. Yes, Sid's got some really... I remember those toys. He was quite inventive, to be honest. Did he need to be traumatized quite that much? The mechanical race that found V'ger. It's curious. Is this group of synthetics, are they the ones who found V'ger? Are they the ones who gave V'ger all this incredible power and sent V'ger back on a homeward journey? That would be an interesting twist to find out that these were indeed. To be honest, I have not been looking at all the Star Trek lore to see if they've ever explained where V'ger came across that. Would be interesting. Oh, we have 9 here. Excellent. So someone asks, is Picard now an android after being resurrected? Well, there is a being that calls himself Picard, who is indeed an android, without any of the enhancements that androids usually get. Whether it's actually Picard, I mean, that brings us to the definition of the soul. If they just copied the memories of Picard into an android, to everyone else it appears Picard is there. But with Picard's core consciousness having been extinguished in his organic body, he doesn't think he's alive. It's kind of like the transporters. Do the transporters destroy your body and then create a duplicate, someone who looks and acts just like you, with all your memories at another place? Now you might say the soul, when the body dissolves, says, oh shit, I need my body, and then detects it and flies off to it. That's a possibility. But how do we explain Thomas Riker? The bounced back version of Riker. Did he have no soul? Did he have half a soul? Again, I think this Picard is just a copy. My Jean Luc, well, were he to die, he might find himself in a limbo created by someone of immense power. Maybe. So Jean Luc is now an android. Will that change as we see him as a character? I think they're going to do their best to pretend he's just the same old Jean Luc. How you see him is really up to you. I see him as just a copy. A very good copy. Someone I could chat with, but not really Jean Luc. An ironic turn of events to after being a father figure for Data on TAG to become an android himself after Data's death. And technically, as the technology was extrapolated from Data, he's now kind of a son of Data. He's one of Data's sons. So, or at least a brother, but I would say he is more of one of Data's children. So the father becomes the child. The master becomes the apprentice and all that stuff. Picard is basically Ripley from Alien. Yes, I can see that. They create a copy of a person and make the android believe that their character is still alive, but it's not the same person. Yes, Alien was a good series. The later on attempts had some value with the whole Prometheus thing, but kind of derailed. They really need to fix that. But yes, Picard. This Picard android believes he's Picard. But, again, Thomas Riker thought he was Will Riker, not realizing that there was another of him traipsing around the universe, breaking up with Deanna. So, I know he ended up in a Cardassian prison camp. I'll have to check up on Thomas at some point. Spam F's in the chat for OG Picard. Well, very handy that the ban on Sense was lifted right in time for Johnny and Soji to go venturing. Without any kind of trial for Soji almost destroying organic life. Yes, definitely pour one out for OG Picard. Do they ever give a trial? I mean, you know, so many people have almost destroyed the universe. But do they know that Soji almost destroyed the universe? And what kind of trial, what kind of law did she break? She was actually sending a beacon for synthetic alien life forms to visit her planet. If she had set up this beacon and the alien showed up and there was no organic life in the vicinity attacking them, might they have done nothing? Don't know. It'd be a very difficult case. But the ban on synths was lifted very quickly, in my opinion. I mean, governments to change laws, put bills into place, rescind laws, doing it quickly. I mean, this is the future, and I know it's science fiction, but let's try to be a little realistic. The old Republic had all these senators who couldn't get anything done. The Federation has all these member worlds. And who decided to lift that ban so quickly? It just seemed very odd. Unless when they're talking about the ban was lifted and they're leaving the planet, it wasn't immediately after the events that caused Jean Luc to be replaced with an android. It could have been months later, which would have given Raffi and Seven a chance to get to know each other, if you know what I mean. So they don't make it quite clear, but for that ban to be lifted, yes, it would make it. It was very convenient so that Soji and now Android Picard could go traipsing around the galaxy. I guess if you consider that Picard saved the universe, which he has a tendency to do, whether you know it or not, for them to ban his new representation, the one that everyone is calling Picard, would probably be bad politics. If people actually knew. It's a very complex situation. The Romulans were attacking synths. As far as everyone knew, synths had destroyed Mars, so yay, Romulans. However, now the Federation decides to defend synths. Very weird situation. Very odd. I don't know how all the behind-the-scenes things went, but I'm sure there was a lot of F-bombs dropped. That's all I know. How is my son coping with Ichi's death? No one really dies in Star Trek or the Q Continuum, so I'm not sure what you mean. How did the Romulans give up so easily after such a long planning of the mission? Picard just gave them a pretty speech and Riker told them to F off and they did? Commodore O. Oh my. Commodore O, first of all, why? She was a member of Starfleet, she was head of Starfleet security, given the rank of Commodore, which is basically the rank of someone in charge of a bunch of ships. So I don't think she should have had that rank. She should have been Colonel O. Oh, Colonel. Oh my. But then she showed her true colors. Her cover is blown in Starfleet, certainly. I think that she made a choice that was very logical in the minds of the writers. I think if it was actually the Romulans, first of all, they saw that all these Starfleet ships would, one, the battle would be very costly without them having a guarantee of destroying the synthetics. Also, it would cause quite the international incident or intergalactic incident, which could plunge the other worlds that survived in the Romulan Empire after the destruction of Romulus at war with the Federation, a war that they might not be keen on their ability to win. So, she did seem to give up a little too easily. Maybe her thought is, we've averted the apocalypse right now, and we can always come back later and destroy the synths. We could hope that it... Not that I want to see the synthetic life destroyed, but if a villain gives up their plan that easily, usually means that they're going to try something different. So, hopefully that is the case. What Riker did with his fleet was manage to keep the Romulans from attacking then. But I don't see them as totally giving up. So, and I hope that's not the case. They had an F-bomb ratio of about 1 to 2 F-bombs per episode. Yes, I don't know why they like to fucking swear so much. Darmot and Jalad at fucking Tanagra. Very, very interesting. The thing is, would people in the Federation swear? I mean, I am quite surprised that Jean Luc wouldn't be "Get off my fucking ship, Q!" at me all the time. So I think the reason we didn't see F-bombs was because it was on network television and people would have been using F-bombs. But still, I think most of them try to maintain a civil tongue in their mouths, especially with superior officers. But I would just once like to hear Jean-Luc say, "Get the fuck off my ship, Q." That would be hilarious. All right. Ooh, we've got a bunch of new comments. Wonderful. Is the La Serena crew the only ones who know Picard died? Well, I imagine that the synthetics on the planet know as well that he died. Jean-Luc could have hid it from Starfleet, but he doesn't seem the kind to do that. So I would say no. But that raises an interesting legal standpoint question, or a question from a legal standpoint. Now, Picard, in this whole universe that doesn't use money in the Federation, supposedly, owns Chateau Picard and the vineyards and, you know, all the wine that is produced from such vineyards. Now, since he died, but was replaced with a synthetic version of himself, does he still own Chateau Picard, or did that ownership lapse and go to, well, without any heirs, since they eliminated Renee, without any heirs, who knows where Chateau Picard would go to? So, I don't think he was able to write a will. In the event of my death, if I am replaced with an android, he is to receive all my possessions. I don't think he would do that. So, interesting legal conundrum. Picard died. Would his synthetic version, who's basically a copy, be entitled to all the things that Picard was entitled to? There are all kinds of aspects of this that were not considered. Chitka, when the walls fucking fell. Have I ever wanted Picard to invite me to his chateau to taste the wine? We have much better wine in the Continuum, but it would have been nice if Picard had sent out such an invitation. Might have brought Vash by, because, you know, she likes older men. And, yes, the confirmed bachelor that is Picard, he needs to get some. The Excelsior, maybe? Well, let's see. We had Narek there, who I'm sure bore witness. Not sure what happened to him after this whole situation. He's not part of Picard's crew. Narissa took a maybe, unless she was beamed out by some emergency thing at the last minute, but I doubt it. I have a feeling we've seen the last of Lois Lane's little sister as a Romulan. So, yeah, the Tal Shiar might. Obviously, the Romulans know Picard to be an ally of the synthetics. So I would not be surprised if they were easily able to find out that he was now one of them. So yes, very interesting. Jim, welcome. And Ted, Mrs. Vash. Vash, we went on a little journey together. She was a pip. She was a fun companion for a mortal. Oh, the Romulans at the chateau might inherit the chateau if Picard died. It's possible that he left it to them especially out of some guilt for not saving some of the Romulans on Romulus. Some were saved, by the way. There were billions on that planet. There was only a portion that the Federation was supposed to have saved, and shall we put this in the new Star Trek terms? They shit the bed on that. So, a lot of Romulans died, but not as many as you think. There's still plenty of Romulans around. Yes, Picard's assistants at the chateau. Yes, I'm trying to remember their names. I can actually look them up quickly. It was Ramda and Laris. It was Laris and Zaban. Why can't Romulans just have names like Joe? What's wrong with a name like Joe? Roy. But anyway, why I am asked why is it that whenever I went to DS9 or Voyager I only cried about Picard all the time? I would not say I cried about Picard. I find Picard to be admirable for a mortal, or at least he was until he died and was replaced by an android. Gary Seven's cats again. Hello, cat. I would have to say that I was very disappointed that Sisko decided to punch me, because Picard never got that angry. I'm not Picard. I actually sounded like Picard when I said that. I need to work on my voice switching techniques. Roy the Romulan. And, I mean, I did not want to mate with Picard. I gave that wonderful choice to Janeway, and she turned me down. I mean, I passed over amoebas for her. But Jean Luc, there is something special about him that I will miss. And this android version, I may plague him, but it won't be the same. Definitely won't be the same. People are responding to you. This is Skye. Skye. And yes, she is a good cat and a pretty cat. And a pretty good cat. And a crazy cat. Okay, this stream has gone on for an hour. Does anyone have any final questions? And I'm told that if you want to support this channel, there is a Patreon. You can go to it. There's even some episodes of The Governor Reflects, which there is a new one in production right now, featuring my dear friend the Governor. And you can also super chat. And Feline supplement number 78 is better than 74. Don't let data fool you. Spot just doesn't know what's good for him. And this is not an android cat. This is a real one. You're making people want to cry because you're so cute. Look at that. So yes, be sure to subscribe if you're not already. You probably are, but you should subscribe. And again, if you go to the patreon.com/Fandom Spotlite, Lite, you can support this channel. Again, we accept super chats, and there's also coffee. Patreon's better. And the Patreon levels start at $2.50 a month, and that enables you to watch my dear friend the governor. LGBTQ. That is cute. If I had known sooner, I would have appeared as a female thing. Well, gender is very fluid in the Q continuum. So, right now, I might not have a gender. Or, I could be both. Or, I could be a few genders you don't know about. That is the joy of being a Q. All right, my friends. It has been lovely speaking with you all about Picard. There may be another live stream at some point when Discovery returns, which is supposed to be in the not too distant future. I might do the live streams again. I might do reviews. I have to speak to these stand-up Spotlight people and clear it with the continuum. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to my cat. Thank you for attending. Again, be sure to subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. And I don't know if you can hear her purring. And check out our Patreon. And have a wonderful existence, even though it's short. And remember, the trial never ends.